Hi there, this is John Frenay, and welcome to an Encore presentation of our Legacy Business Spotlight. These are best done in person, and with the current state of emergency restrictions, that's just not possible. So we will be re-releasing our past episodes every Saturday at noon until this pandemic is in our collective rearview mirror. Until then, enjoy this Encore presentation of our Legacy Business Spotlight.
Some businesses succeed, some don't. Then there are those that seem to have been around forever. The true entrepreneurial success story. How did they do it? What was their vision? What makes a success? In this special episode for Eye on Annapolis, we speak with the true success stories. Those business owners that have been around for decades. Learn from their successes and failures. Now, here's host John Frenay.
Can't picture a better place than out here along the B&A Trail behind the Big Bean in Severna Park. And we're with Rachel Varn, who is you're the owner of Pedal Power Kids, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, well, Pedal Power Kids, I mean, this just sort of came to me. Actually, I was speaking with Mary Ostrowski at Weems Creek Nursery School. And she said, you need to talk to Rachel because she's got such a great program. And I've recently gotten into biking. And I say recently as an adult, but probably 3 years. I mean, I bought a bike, had it stolen when I got robbed, and then I bought another one. So I was stupid enough to buy another one. And I have done the Lifeline 100, which is coming up in October of every year.
Yep.
And that's always fun on the B&A Trail. And if you're brave enough, you can go on the roads of Anne Arundel County. And I know you've participated in that event several times
yes,
as well.
I have.
With Pedal Power Kids.
With Pedal Power Kids, we always we do the free children's bike safety rodeo. We set up a really fun obstacle course there, and we usually run about 100 kids through it each year. I've also ridden the event several times myself. I've done the full. I've done the 100 before.
So you're one of those.
So, but I have to get back in time for the rodeo. So sometimes I've got to just power through and not even hit the aid stations.
Wait a minute. This rodeo jumps in around like 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock. So you're telling me you ride 100 miles before 1 o'clock?
I'm trying to think if I've done the 100 before 1. I've definitely done the 67 before 1, the metric century, but I maybe haven't ridden the 100 since I started Pedal Power Kids.
That's crazy.
But I've had to have some quick mornings in order to get both my ride in and get to ride with the kids.
Still some of the concepts of that. I know I've talked with Alex Pline before, and then he's helped to run the thing, and he's like, oh yeah, I rode from home, and I know where he lives. And I'm like, all the way up here? But tell me about Pedal Power Kids. I mean, This was interesting because, I mean, you do the bike safety thing. I've seen you at Pitt Moyer Rec Center with the van and everything else.
We partner with
what is Pedal Power Kids?
So we teach kids and adults of all ages, all abilities, how to ride safely and confidently. So we do that everything from toddlers on balance bikes, so really getting them on bikes at an early age, as young as 18 months, up into kids that maybe didn't learn at that sort of early elementary age, maybe for one reason or another. So we partner with the city rec and parks, county rec and parks, and then a number of schools, public and private, around the county, to offer programs for kids.
So this is sort of like driver's ed for the little set.
Yeah, I like to think of it that way. And then what's really fun is that those kids want to stay with us and continue to ride. So we run bike clubs and we run adventure camps year round. So those are for kids who already know how to ride, but they just want to get out with a group and ride. And it's something that kind of takes me back. Most of us as kids had a lot more sort of freedom to be out riding, and that's not necessarily something that is as achievable for a lot of kids these days. So
it's funny that you mentioned that because I mean, as you were talking about that, I'm having this flashback. In third grade, I mean, I'd roll home from school. I would throw my books in my room. I'd hop on my bike, and my friends and I would go terrorize some neighborhood or something like that until somebody screamed for dinner.
Exactly, until somebody rang the dinner bell. Yeah, exactly.
And that's just really not, unless you live in certain areas. I mean, right now, if I had young kids, I mean, unless I lived right here, like on the B&A Trail, I would be terrified to let my kids out terrorizing the neighborhoods. Like we did.
Yeah, I mean, it's there for a lot of reasons. A lot of kids don't have that kind of freedom. But we want to bring that back. We want to have kids feel comfortable and confident, and their parents feel comfortable and confident with their ability to get out and ride. Even the B&A Trail is a good example. It's an amazing resource. We're sitting here. I rode here right after I dropped my daughter off by bike at her elementary school. But a lot of families with young kids don't necessarily feel comfortable riding on the B&A Trail because there are riders who are riding at a high speed. There are intersections where there are cars blowing through. So part of what we do is to really try to help develop the skills that kids and their families need to be able to ride confidently, on a trail. In their neighborhoods in a lot of different settings.
Did biking drop off as far as a hobby or a thing as from when we were kids? And I say we. I don't mean to include you into my generation.
It sure did. So I think that I'll have to get the exact numbers, but in the 60s, I want to say that like about 37% of kids walked or rode bikes to school nationally, and now that number is like under 5%. Wow. So it has dropped off, but it's coming back, which is the really cool part. There are a lot of efforts, public and private, to get kids riding more and to get kids riding to school. There's a national interscholastic mountain bike league that I'm also involved with for kids in grades 6 through 12. So there's a whole lot of efforts to get more kids on bikes, and I think we're starting to see participation pick back up.
Well, there's also, there's so much that's there. I mean, obviously you get fresh air, you can get out from behind the screen.
Yep. Yep.
And the iPads and whatever else there may be. But I mean, you've got the exercise thing. And I mean, we've developed into a country that has not exercised nearly as much as we can. I mean, I'm somewhat of a poster child on that myself, but you get out and I do enjoy it. It can be very exertive. I don't know whether that's a word. If it's not, I just made it up, but it can be a very rough exercise to exert yourself. And other times it can be just very cool and
very meditative, very calming. There's some great data with kids and ADD, ADHD in terms of like self-regulation and how bikes can help them. So they've done ride studies with kids who ride to school who have better focus. And what I hear from so many parents whose kids have been through our programs is that not only have our programs really boosted their kids' confidence and gotten them more active and healthy, but that riding really kind of helps with a lot of the sort of anxiety. And it's just there are a few things that feel as good as like riding your bike on a sunny day, with a friend. And that's what we hear from kids. I do programs at Naval Academy Primary School. I do bike club there, and right now I have a group of 10 boys. They're
God bless you.
All boys. I don't know why it's all boys this session, but they're they're kind of kindergarten through third grade. And when I arrive on Fridays, they are like so excited. They are bouncing off the walls. I mean, the first 10 minutes are just pure chaos. And then as we ride, you can just see like everybody is just sort of settling down, and like the bickering between the kids stops, and everybody is just like all of a sudden feeling this kind of calm that I think, comes from being on the bike, where it is just sort of meditative, as you turn the pedals and as you hear the birds chirp and get to kind of see life, the world around you. So it's pretty amazing when we come back and everyone is just so calm and kind of thinks it feels like it was like the best part of the week. So I love that.
Well, the programs you talk about, okay, so you go actually to locations to instruct kids on how to safely ride the bike. And I'm sure that involves helmets and, real footwear as opposed to the sandals and, probably long pants, I guess. But that might be yes or no in the summer. But what's involved in teaching kids?
Yeah. So starting with helmets, right? So helmets are sort of like a last line of defense. And that's not at all to say that helmets aren't important, because they absolutely are. But in my training as a league certified cycling instructor, which is certification that I have and a training that I've been through, we learned that you need a helmet there to potentially save your life or to protect you in the event that you have an accident or you are hit. But before that, you have to have the skills to be able to ride safely. So it really starts with kind of developing those fundamental skills. And for kids, that starts with balance. So a lot of people think that riding a bike is about, pedaling. Pedaling piece is for kids developmentally is pretty easy for them to grasp, but it's the balance and sometimes the core strength that's missing. So what we do in our programs is that we start kids off on balance bikes, and balance bikes or kick bikes are the little bikes you see that have no pedals at all. And so kids learn to propel them with their feet. And as they develop more comfort and confidence, they will pick their feet up and glide for longer and longer distances.
So they're just scooching with their feet and then holding onto the handlebars and just wobbling down.
Not really wobbling, but yeah. So, and this is actually the same way we teach. If you said, I don't know how to ride my bike, Rachel, I would do the very same thing for you. We would start you out without any pedals at all. And we would get you to be able to glide and balance on the bike. And then once you can kind of glide for, let's say 5 yards without putting your feet down, then that lets us know that you have enough balance that you're going to be able to hold up the bike on your own. And then obviously adding the pedal component in and the speed that comes from pedaling is going to be what makes the difference.
I didn't even know those things existed. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, they actually they were one of the first bikes ever. So they used to be called the hobby horse in the late 1800s. So but they've been used in other parts of the world like routinely instead of training wheels or stabilizers as the Brits call them. But here we've had this attachment to training wheels. Training wheels make it significantly more difficult to learn how to ride independently. So our kids don't use training wheels at all. And families that work with me from an early age, their kids are riding independently at 2, 3, 4 years old, never having been on training wheels.
Wow! So you work with kids, toddlers?
Yes. Yep.
What's your favorite age group?
Oh my gosh,
7-year-olds, right?
That's so tough. I love the kids at Weems Creek, for example. The toddlers are so fun. They're so they're little pocket rockets because they're so close to the ground, but they haven't developed all that much fear. I love working with I would say kind of somewhat older boys, sometimes who've decided that bike riding isn't for them, and they've sort of put up their defenses about it. And, I don't want to ride a bike. And then once they've learned, those are the kids who, their parents just can't stop talking about how life-changing it's been, because they just have this new confidence and this newfound activity that they can do that isn't necessarily competitive sports. That's a challenging part of living in this area, is that sports.
And there's pressure.
Yeah, sports get really competitive at a really early age, and if that's not your thing, a lot of families kind of don't know where to turn. They don't want their kids sitting inside playing video games, but they also don't want to do travel baseball at 7 or 8 years old. So,
well, it's also I've got to imagine it's a fairly wholesome activity that parents feel a little bit more comfortable. And that's not to say that some teenager can't go out onto the someplace, sneak around the back behind a grocery store and drink or smoke or anything like that.
Sure.
But, I mean, at least it's a little bit more comfortable than just dropping them off at the mall for 4 hours.
Yep, exactly. It gives them a little bit of that sense of freedom that kids want and that kids need, and a little bit of agency and decision making that they, but without parents feeling too uncomfortable. In fact, we work with kids, and we will help with, we do neighborhood bike safety events, and we'll work on things like, okay, for, what's the safest way for kids to ride to the pool in this neighborhood? What are the things that we need to be aware of? I did an event with neighbors in West Annapolis, and they were having, some challenges with kids. They've got tons of kids who ride to school, which is awesome. But they hadn't had a whole lot of training and education on bike safety. And so they were doing a lot of things that were really dangerous, and they were dodging, they were run out in front of cars, and they just hadn't been trained on kind of where are blind spots, and why you need to look back over your shoulder before you make a turn, and so we did some work there, and they've been seeing great results, and so the kids are out there riding and enjoying being outside with each other, enjoying being out in the community, but they're able to do it in a safer way.
So this is okay. So you do individual lessons.
Yep.
You do group lessons through organizations in schools
Yep.
and neighborhoods.
And through neighborhoods.
And you also do, you said summer camps or camps?
We do summer camps. Yep. So we'll run 9 weeks of summer camps this summer. So we'll be at Pip Moyer Rec Center in Annapolis. We'll be at Kinder Farm Park here in Millersville. And then we also run neighborhood paddle and pedal camps. So we partner with our friends at Montrefit. They do stand-up paddling. And so we have camps where kids will do, they'll be on the water half the day and then they'll be out riding their bikes the other half the day.
And what's involved in the camp? Is that like an all-day camp or a half-day camp? Or is
So our Learn to Ride camps are a half-day camp. So kids show up Monday morning. These are kids that do not know how to ride independently. A lot of them are pretty scared. And then typically by the time their moms and dads pick them up Tuesday, some Wednesday, they are riding. And then by Friday, they're riding really, really confidently, really well. We have a bike parade on Friday where our parents come and the kids kind of get to show off their skills.
That's the graduation.
It's the graduation. It's really fun. And some of them, are feeling really confident. So you'll see a lot of one hand waving and all sorts of cool stuff by Friday. So it's really fun.
What are some of the safety tips that you have? And again, I'm this is purely self-serving here as a relatively new bike rider, as an adult. But I mean, what are some of the safety tips? I mean, the riding on the roads absolutely terrifies me. And
Sure.
I'll be the one to admit that. And I get on the road on, Forest Drive or something like that. And it's like, okay, got to get off here as quickly as possible.
Sure. I mean, so confidence is key, and sort of understanding, having some general understanding of sort of road and traffic safety law is important, so that you kind of, or even how to use, use the trail is important, right? So we're sitting here on the B&A trail. The B&A trail does not have a line dividing it, but it has an imaginary line, as I tell the kids. And you need to stay on the right side, and you need to let people know loudly when you're passing, and so having a general familiarity with if I do need to stop suddenly, what do I do? I don't stop in the middle of the trail. I think that helps a lot. And then it when you're sort of confident in your knowledge that, okay, I'm doing the right thing, you're a little less concerned about kind of what else is going on around you. Maybe there's a, dog that runs out into the middle of the trail, and maybe there's things they're unexpected, but you sort of understand how you are to ride and interact. Visibility is huge with kids and with adults. So I recommend lights. Maryland law says, front and rear reflector, but I recommend lights on both back and front.
Day and night.
Day and night, yeah. High visibility clothes are big. You'll see our campers all around town this summer in their high vis safety green shirts.
Cool.
Because we like being really visible. So those are, obviously helmets are a must, for all ages. It's disappointing to me when I see a family out enjoying a nice weekend ride and parents are not in helmets, because we've got a model for our kids what we want them to do. So helmets are really a must for all family members.
Sure, without a doubt. Out on the road, just as a personal opinion, do bikers need to follow traffic rules?
Of course. Yep.
So they're no different than a car, other than
Nope.
7,000 pounds lighter.
Nope. Nope. There is always a lot of discussion and social media when there are incidents, and there are bad drivers who don't adhere to the rules of the road, and there are cyclists who don't adhere to the rules of the road. But I think everybody is out there. What drivers, need to understand, obviously, is that cyclists and pedestrians are a lot more vulnerable. They're not in a 6,000 pound metal box. But I think that, everyone needs to obey rules, and then also just slow down. We're in this together, spend 5 seconds paying a little bit more attention to what's going on around you.
It took me so long growing up to realize that I used to drive my mother down to Florida, and doing 85 miles an hour versus 65 miles an hour gets me there 20 minutes earlier. And in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really make too much of a difference. And just a little bit of situational awareness as to what's around you. It makes
a big difference.
And, it makes no sense in the world to get into, pardon the language, but a pissing match over the rules of the road.
Sure.
When somebody gets hurt,
yep.
or property gets damaged.
Yep.
You don't want to damage a car,
yep.
being a bicyclist, and certainly you don't want to damage a bike or the person riding the bike if you're driving a car.
Yeah.
Which is, I tend to follow the stop sign on the B&A trail when I do the B&A
yep.
trail when you cross the various roads, and some people will slow down, they'll sort of peek around the corner and scooch over, and I think I get dirty looks when I do stop, but I mean, I do stop, I look,
you
I
gotta
want to
stop.
make sure that
Yeah,
it's there.
you got to stop. I take so many kids out on the trail, and we take the stop signs very seriously, because although they're crosswalks, they certainly don't necessarily stop drivers. So yeah, we stopping on the trail is key.
Well, you mentioned that you're on the board of Bike Annapolis and Anne Arundel County.
I am.
Or it might be Bike Anne Arundel County and Annapolis. It's like Bike AAA.
Yeah. Bicycle advocates for Annapolis and Anne Arundel County. Yes.
And so Anne Arundel County is really, and you can probably speak to this a little bit, it's really been expanding their bike trails.
Yes.
And I mean, we had the B&A trail for a while, and then they added the circle around the airport.
Yep.
And now there's like the West B&A trail. There's
there's so much development. There's a whole lot happening. We've had phase 1 of the South Shore Trail open, and that's going to eventually connect Annapolis over to go through the Crownsville area, but all the way over to the WB&A Trail on the other side of Route 3. We have the Broadneck Trail at various phases open, various phases in development. So there really is a lot happening in terms of infrastructure. It's nowhere near where we want to be, but it's starting to make a difference in terms of viable routes for commuting, for getting around town. When I hear a lot of complaints about the traffic, around town, I try to remind people that often it is faster to ride. I'm a resident of Severna Park. My home is right off the B&A Trail. Like I said, earlier I ride my daughter to school every day, to elementary school. But we also use the trail a lot to get to our kids' sporting events up at Kinder. So we actually have an electric bike that we use for that, a cargo bike. I can put 2 kids on the bike, and I can get to Kinder for lacrosse practice faster than I could in a car. Oh, wow. And so I think people get very frustrated by the traffic and the congestion, and that leads to kind of a lot of this anger. But I really encourage people to explore whether you actually might get there faster on a bike.
We are so car centric. We really are. I mean, I think it's just been a learned behavior.
Yep.
We need to go someplace. Okay, we go outside. We put the key in the ignition, and off we go. And it's funny. I try to walk steps at the Pitmore Rec Center every morning, and I try to faithfully get like my 6 miles in every morning.
That's great.
And I've, when it's raining and snowing and stuff like that, I will drive. But a lot of times I will try to take my bike. And it takes me about a minute and a half or 2 minutes more to do that.
Yeah.
And I figured, okay, well, I get that. It's didn't cost me really anything to do. And to be honest with you, after walking and stuff like that, it feels actually kind of good just to sit there and sort of, it's mostly downhill to my house, so it's sort of coast.
Yeah, you can get a coast home, and I love our morning ride to school with my daughter. It's probably like my favorite time of the day with her. We get a chance to
that's the mommy and me
chat, and we also have a chance to wave at our neighbors that we wouldn't otherwise see when we're in the car. We pass the county rec and park maintenance facility and see the maintenance guys every morning, get to say hi to them. And I find that with a lot of kids in my bike programs at my camps, sometimes they'll say like, Coach Rachel, like, who is that person you just said hi to? And it was just one of our neighbors, like just a stranger danger in some ways has probably gone a little bit too far with a lot of kids. They're a little bit afraid of sort of everybody and everything around them. And so I find that when we're out on our bikes and we're waving and saying hi to people, just meeting a lot of our neighbors and our feeling a little bit more connected to our communities.
It's funny. I did a social experiment in Annapolis one time. I walked from my house downtown to downtown Annapolis for an event, and I made a purpose point. I was going to say hello, recognize, smile, nod, or something like that to every person I passed. It was a beautiful day, so I'm walking down there, and it was funny in Eastport, all through like the Eastport section, nobody would recognize, like, hey, morning, not a darn thing. And then when I got over the bridge into downtown Annapolis, and maybe it's because there were tourists and maybe it's a different mindset or whatever, more people would do that.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. The stranger danger is, I mean, obviously it's real. I mean, we're living in a different world than we were when, any of us were growing up. But most people are good.
Yep. They
and,
are.
The vast majority are good. And, just to have situational awareness is just like riding the bike. Okay, yes, that car might be turning right here, so I need to be prepared for him to take the right.
Absolutely. I grew up, I've always been a huge Mr. Rogers fan. I grew up watching Mr. Rogers every day. I think like most of my life philosophies come from things I learned from Mr. Rogers, and his sort of focus on looking for the helpers in your community, and, looking for the good in situations, I think is something I try to infuse into my programs. Everyone's favorite ride is usually when we ride to the fire station. We love going to visit the fire station, and a lot of the firefighters also ride bikes.
Sure.
So we have a lot of fun talking about that with them. We work really closely with county and city bike patrol police, and it's awesome for the kids to kind of get to know those guys as well. Another favorite ride for our kids is we visit a local assisted living that we can ride to from Kinder Farm Park, and the kids call them the Grand Friends, and we share the snowball truck comes, and we share snowballs with the seniors, and it's just really so fun. And I love that the seniors, the residents, are able to sort of reminisce over their memories on bikes. We all have them. They're such a huge part of most of our childhoods, and so I really want our kids to have the same.
They really have. Well, I'll tell you, it's funny. I mentioned some of the trails, and I was looking on your website, which is pedalpowerkids.com.
Yes, it is.
No funky spellings there. It's just pedalpowerkids.com.
Yep.
And the number of trails that are in the area, and I mean, you went out a little bit. You went into, Prince George's County and Montgomery County and Washington and Northern Virginia and whatnot. But the amount of trails that we can ride here within an easy drive, and I mean, it's easy enough to take a wheel off of a bike now. I mean, you couldn't when I was, the Schwinn with the big handlebars and whatnot. You couldn't do that before. But I mean, it's easy enough to put a bike in the back seat of a car if you don't have a carrier, if you just pop the front wheel off.
Sure
or
can.
A carrier.
Yep.
And get to any number of different trails that are just fantastic around here. And as I was snooping around on the site, I mean, it's such a great resource
Thank you.
Find things to do. I mean, I'm probably going to make a checklist out of the trails.
Oh, good.
To
good.
do and say, okay, well, we'll do this. We'll do that.
There are a lot of fun options, and it's just such a fun family outing. And
I did like the tip that you put on and I don't remember the name of the trail, the one that goes between someplace in Pennsylvania and Cumberland.
The Gap Trail, yes.
And you said start on the other side because it's mostly downhill. That's that's the kind of tip I want.
The Gap Trail is awesome. And a couple weeks ago, I was at Bike Advocacy Day, at the Maryland State House, and there was another bike advocate from far western Maryland that was out there trying to get people excited about the Gap Trail. So I let him know I'm always letting people know about how much of a great family adventure the Gap Trail was. I did it with my kids and my parents. So it was a 3-generation trip a couple summers ago, and it was just a whole lot of fun.
How long did it take you?
We did not do the whole thing. So there's always that balance with kids where it's how do you make it so for me, I rode back uphill. So I like the longer stuff. So we had some days where we parked in one spot, did the ride, and then I rode back to get the car. So, okay. But we probably did 100 miles of it over, I think over 3 or 4 days. Okay. So, yeah.
What do you do for staying? Are there little hotels or motels that you?
Yep. There's hotels along the way. You can camp. There's a whole lot of options. They've done a whole lot to, kind of revitalize some of these small towns, that are along the trail, and it's really become a kind of vibrant part of their economy.
Well, you're helping me to plan some things for the summer, which
for
me won't include actually any of your camps. but when do we register and how do we register and whatnot for your camps? And if we want to look for classes, whether we are a child or an adult?
Yeah, so our website has all of our information in terms of upcoming camps and upcoming summer programs. And we do still have some availability. A lot of our camps have already filled up. So we've and then we continue to add programs at schools. So, if it's something that you'd like to see us come to your school, now's the time to reach out in terms of fall 2020.
Okay. Well, and one other thing, too, is, biking tends not to be a hugely expensive. Like hockey or lacrosse or something where you're always buying all this gear and everything else. It's not a hugely expensive activity. But there is a cost involved. I mean, you do have to have a bike. And I remember when, as an adult, I went and bought my bike, and it was like sticker shock. I walked into Parvilla Sports, and I'm looking at like $3,200, $1,700. I'm like, hey, where's like the cheap section? And he says, oh, we keep it in the back. And they had less expensive bikes back there, which was more of what I was looking at for my budget. And when I replaced it as well. And I do realize that bikes can go from a couple $100 to, I can't believe I'm even going to say this, but tens of thousands of dollars.
Yep, they sure can. They sure can.
And, and that can be an expense for a lot of people. I mean, how do they, you can rent bikes. I know that we've got pedal pushers right here on the trail that will.
Yep. So bikes themselves are a big part of the reason that kids have trouble learning to ride. Okay. So kids bikes are the typical big box store kids bikes. Target, Walmart type bikes are incredibly heavy. They are way overbuilt for various for liability reasons, right? So the average kid's bike might weigh as much as more than half of what the kid weighs, right? So that's, if I put myself on 100-pound, bike, I'm going to struggle to get it moving forward. And so we find that the bikes themselves are a lot of the reason that kids struggle. So we work with a brand called Woon Bicycles that they make amazing kids bikes that are super lightweight, that are actually the correct geometry for kids. A lot of kids bikes are just incredibly awkwardly shaped and that have really exceptional handbrakes. I find that most kids who have trouble learning or who are very, very nervous riders who lack confidence, it's usually because they don't feel like they can stop. And not being able to feel it to stop or to control your speed is really off-putting for anybody of any age.
Yeah, in your car.
So, yeah, I mean, that's, when parents say, well, does this coaster brake, does it really make that big of a difference? And I said, well, if you got into your car and we're heading out somewhere and we're kind of like 50-50 about whether your brakes were working, you probably wouldn't feel that great either.
Right.
So the bike makes a huge difference. For our programs, our kids use or rent our bikes. And they learn on the Woon bikes that we sell and that we have a fleet of. And so a lot of families decide that those are the bikes that they want to then invest in. But for other families, then we help them transition back to whatever bike they're going to be using. And it's a much easier transition once they've learned on one of our bikes. It's a whole lot easier.
So you supply the bikes.
We do. Mm-hmm.
Now, is that required?
No, it's not required, but it's
recommended.
Yeah, it's the bikes like everything else. Bikes need to be maintained, and that's something that sometimes families don't totally get. So when you show up and you got flat tires and a whole bunch of other issues, your kid's going to struggle, and it's going to be hard for them to build confidence if they're struggling so much with the bike. So we prefer that kids are on a bike that we know is well maintained, and that's really gonna help them build confidence and build their abilities.
And will bikes tend anymore now? Again, I haven't bought a bike for a kid in a long time, but I know that kids grow like weeds between sneakers and clothing and bicycles as well. I know my son probably had 4 bicycles when he was growing up.
Sure.
I mean, I'm assuming there is a market for used bikes. I mean, obviously you can go to Craigslist and get rid of them.
It's huge for these Woon bikes that we sell and that we use. So they tend to resell for about 80% of what you paid for them, which is kind of unheard of. Bikes are kind of like cars and that they typically, lose about half their value the second you walk out of the bike shop. So there's a really strong resale market. We have a Facebook group for all of our pedal power families, in and around this area where they can resell bikes. And so kids do grow, quickly, and the expectation that you'll have a bike for years is probably not realistic depending on the age of the child. But we think that a high quality bike like the ones that we work with can easily get through, a family of 3 or 4 kids and then still have life left in it. So, and actually my dad, who is really one of the big inspirations for Pedal Power Kids and who works with me, in the business, the kids all love Coach Paul. He always comes with me to all of our programs on Sundays. He paid his way through college and law school as a bike mechanic and managed a bike shop. So my whole childhood growing up, I always had bikes that my dad would rescue from the town dump. camp and restore. And so I was sort of embarrassed about that when I was a kid. But, now I'd probably give anything for these like cool classic Schwinn's and so high quality bikes have a lot of life in them. My dad loves the bikes that we use and helps me maintain our fleet, but he's also gotten involved with a program that we have through Bike AAA, and it's called Wheels of Hope. And Wheels of Hope is a program. It's also in partnership with Anne Arundel County Police and Anne Arundel Medical Center and Anne Arundel County Food Bank. And so Wheels of Hope collects donated bikes, collects used bikes, both kids and adults. They are refurbished by an awesome team of volunteers, which includes my dad, and then they're placed with kids and adults in need. So a lot of the adult bikes go to crisis response, and they go to adults who are in transition. A lot of the kids' bikes go to different, kids in need in Annapolis.
Lower and lower income.
Last summer, Pedal Power Kids was able to partner with Wheels of Hope and with Bike AAA, and we did a Learn to Ride camp for the kids at Centro de Ayuda. And so we were able to give them about 20 bikes, and to teach about 20 kids how to ride in a couple afternoons. So that was really cool.
That's so cool. I mean, it's all about opportunity to be able to have that opportunity.
Yeah.
How did you get into okay, I mean, I get your dad was, worked his way through law school and college and everything else, managing a bike, and obviously he's got a little bit of an affinity for biking, but how did you personally get involved to the degree that you are?
Yeah. So, I've been a rider, my whole life, but I actually ran track and cross country in college, and then started to kind of dabble in triathlon post college, and then started to get really back into cycling. I worked in franchising, and I worked with some bike related franchises, and so more on the side, more just I was sort of like the friend that others would reach out to about advice about bikes. What should I do? And then it was advice about their kids and bikes, and how am I going to get so and so riding? And I really saw that there was an opportunity for this in the market. I saw that my friends and other moms in this area would pay for quality instruction for our kids to learn how to swim. We weren't attempting to teach our kids to swim, and I felt that there was the same need for bikes. I kept hearing from people that they were frustrated trying to teach their kids, that their kids weren't learning, and so I quit my job. I started the business, and kind of the rest is history.
Took a leap of faith.
Yeah, took a leap of faith,
really great.
And it's worked out really great. And it's just, it's just been amazing. And I've been able to get really involved in bike advocacy and serving on the board of Bike AAA and working on our county-wide bike to school efforts, bike to school day efforts. So it's just been amazing, and the response in our market and our community has been so powerful. And my in the future, we're going to look to expand Pedal Power Kids into other markets. So we've got a lot of families that drive.
With your background in franchising, is it looking to be a franchise, or are you looking?
We'll see. So I've seen the not so pretty sides of franchising, but I built a lot of our systems and the way we do things and our curriculum to be able to be replicated. So we've got a lot of families that drive from DC and drive from Baltimore for us for programs, and so we'd like to be able to offer programs in those markets in the near future.
Fantastic. Well, I'll tell you, everybody go check out pedalpowerkids.com. Summer camps, they may be coming to your neighborhood. If you've got a community association, get with your neighbors, find out if it makes sense to see if Rachel Varn can come down to your neighborhood with her truckload of bikes.
I've got a big as you've seen at the rec center. I've got a big commercial van. It's got a big, huge picture of a girl on a bike on it who's actually my daughter. So that's kind of fun. Her friends spot her around town and think she's a celebrity. But we bring all the bikes, we bring all the equipment, all the cones and so forth. We bring our ramps and everything to set up for our safety rodeos. So we come to you.
And if you want to check it out, coming up in any October, because I don't think they're going to stop anytime soon, but you've got the Anne Arundel County Lifeline 100, which is a bike ride that goes 100 miles, 65, 30, or an optional 10 for 45, I think, or 15.
And John Corin, who's our president and founder of Bike AAA, will will not be happy if I don't give you the date for Lifeline 100.
October 6th.
So October 6th. There we go. Okay.
I've got that, but it is every October. It's always the first Sunday in October.
It's always the first Sunday in October.
And
yes.
That's up at Kinder Farm Park or Kinder Park Farm? I get it
Kinder
confused.
Farm Park. Yes.
I always transpose those words.
Early bird registration is open, so
Right.
you can register now.
But the rodeo is free.
The rodeo is free. Yep.
So you
And
can check out
Yep.
Rachel's bikes. You can check out what they offer there and do that. I do
Yep.
recommend everybody get out on the trail. It's a beautiful way to see the county.
Sure
and
is.
Get some fresh air and everything else. And congratulations to Pedal Power Kids. Again, pedalpowerkids.com. Give you all the information. Go to I think it's on the about or the facts section where it tells you all the different trails that are in the area. And
It does. I think it's under resources, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, or maybe under the about.
But
so,
it's on there. It's on there, and it's got a good bunch of trails, and it sort of tells you, how to get there, and made a checklist for me. But Rachel Varn, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this special podcast for Ion Annapolis. Please be sure to visit ionannapolis.net for all your local news, events, and opinions. And in case you haven't already, please subscribe to the Ion Annapolis Daily News Brief, where we bring you your local news direct to your phone or tablet every Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Subscribe on iTunes or Google Play.